Welcome to the Health Detective Podcast with Roberto Parker. Join strength and conditioning expert Roberto Parker as he shares his over 35 years of experience in training athletes and helping people achieve their fitness goals. Now here's your moderator, Chris Whiting, with Coach Roberto.
Hey, all right, thank you so much. Hey, so exciting as always to be with you for the Health Detective Podcast. This episode I'm really looking forward to because we're going to go through Roberto's top 5 exercises. The exercises that are going to have the most impact, make you the most healthy you can possibly be. And not to make this about me, Roberto, but we had a hell of a workout this morning.
That's right.
You kicked my ass. And so
That's right.
I'm excited to see how many of the exercises we did this morning fit into or are related to your top 5 exercises tonight.
I'd say, they're all interrelated. The reason I have a top 5 or top 3 or top 4 is because there's some exercises that are just, I consider the foundation of all movements of what we do.
Sure.
The body is a 3-dimensional design, the way we move and ambulate through space. Oops, missed that pin there.
Hey, that's what happens when we're live, folks. Sorry.
When you move in a straight ahead motion, that is called a linear sagittal plane.
Linear sagittal, okay.
Sagittal, yes. When you move side to side, that is lateral, also called the frontal plane. And also when you twist rotationally, that is called the transverse plane. That is how our bodies function. I actually have a list called the primal movements, which is about 10 different things. It's pushing, pulling, bending, twisting, squatting, lunging, climbing, crawling, striking. So that everything, I believe we should exercise the way that our primal ancestors used to move through space.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying we should live that way, but I believe we should exercise the way they moved and the way they survived. Every day you had to crawl, climb, strike, lunge, bend, twist, sprint from a predator, or throw something at like a rock to kill your prey for the day, or something like a rabbit or a squirrel to eat for dinner.
Yeah.
So those are all survival, to me, survival type of movements. That's the way we're designed. The number 1 exercise.
Oh, wow, okay.
That I consider, I feel like old Dave Letterman show here.
Yes.
And number 1.
Hey, there you go.
Hey, all right.
Is squats. Squats, no doubt about it. Squatting is the most fundamental, foundational movement pattern, the way we need to live our lives. Think about it. Before we had bathrooms, you had to squat. Women, when they first delivered babies, they had to squat that little thing out. Okay? Okay, they just didn't have a doctor pull it out.
Yeah, they didn't have stirrups back in the day.
You had to squat it out.
Okay.
So squatting is very fundamental. Now, why? Squatting is a ground-based exercise. Ground-based meaning your feet are on the ground. We spend more time on our feet, at least we should anyway, than we do sitting down or laying in bed. So it would make sense to put on, include some sort of ground-based type of exercise. Now, if you squat with a bar or a sandbag or a dumbbell or a kettlebell or even just doing body weight squats, if you do them properly, you're working not just your legs, your midsection, your back, even up in your trapezius area. So there's a lot of bang for your buck there with squats.
So this kind of makes sense to me because when I go to your class, if we're doing like sledgehammer swings and pounding on a tire, if we're doing kettlebell swings,
you're squatting.
I feel like we're getting in, 50, 75, 100 squats sometimes when we're doing those movements for 4 or 5 minutes at a time.
Correct. Yeah, because like I said, squats are very fundamental to the way we have to move through space. The number 2.
Number 2.
Oh, this is good.
Are lunges. Lunges are pretty much one-legged squats, but lunges require more balance and stability because you're on one leg. So in order to survive in the wilderness, once again, you have to have good stability, good balance, good mobility. So that is why I like lunges. Plus, you can do a lot of different combination exercises off of lunges. So lunges would be the number 2. Now, question?
Well, so question. As we age, because I worked out with you about 10 years ago.
Right.
Had to stop. I've come back now. And I have found, between 40 and 50, doing lunges, I feel like my balance deteriorated those last 10 years. So I've really had to work.
It is possible.
Coming back to you to build that balance back up. Is that so? Okay, so I'm not abnormal.
No, I mean
in that regard.
The old saying is, if you don't use it, you lose it. So
amen.
That's the thing about doing lunges, any sort of balance. One of the first things you lose as you age is your balance.
Okay.
Your equilibrium. So that's why a lot of older people fall and break their hip in bad weather, or sometimes just walking, because they've lost their sense of balance. And a lot of that is due because their muscles have started to atrophy, and they're losing muscle tissue, which is called sarcopenia. So that's another reason you should exercise, because if you don't exercise, especially after age 40, because now your body's getting older and your body's not making as much growth hormone like it used to, or as efficiently as it used to, or testosterone for men and estrogen for women, you're going to lose muscle density. And when you lose muscle density, those organs, not just bones and joints, but organs will be affected also, because muscles are pretty much like organs. When you build muscle, there is a compound called myokines. Myokines are like hormones. These hormones are made by the muscles, and they communicate with everything in the body. Your heart, your lungs, your kidneys, your pancreas, your prostate, your ovaries, everything. So
my
muscles,
ovaries?
Well, not you.
Oh, okay.
At least I don't think so.
As far as you know.
I hope not, Chris. But anyway, muscles make myokines, and those are crucial for life-sustaining functions. Number 3.
Number 3.
Okay. Pushing or pulling. Now, I'm going to get a little bit more specific here other than pushing or pulling. Pushing. Things like push-ups.
Makes sense.
Things like overhead press. Now, if I had to choose between the two of those, I would take overhead press. Why? Because you're standing on your feet. You are ground-based.
Interesting. I would have thought push-ups because you're doing body weight, but I would have been mistaken.
Well, push-up. I'm not discounting push-ups at all, because push-ups are good. But with push-ups, you're not engaging you're not loading the body quite as much as pushing a bar over your head, or a dumbbell, or a log, or a branch, or whatever. And plus, when you're pushing something over your head, it requires a lot of stability of the spinal column. Whereas push-ups, they do require some stability, but not quite as much as doing an overhead press. Like I said, I like both of them. They're both good. In fact, I would take push-ups most times over bench press. And the reason is because you're ground-based with your feet and hands on the ground, and it requires a lot of core stability through your spine and your hips and your back and legs and so forth. So I would take intense push-ups over intense bench press. Now,
which goes back to your adage of we get healthy from the belly button out.
Correct.
So you want to engage that core as much as you can.
Right, exactly. So and that's another thing that overhead presses will do.
Okay, wow. So we've had 2 exercises that were primarily legs. We had our first one involving the upper body at number 3. So are we ready for number
4?
That would be deadlifts. Deadlifts are when you pick anything up off of the ground from basically a squatting position. Now, everything that I've talked about here thus far requires a degree of technique. If you pick something up wrong or push something over your head wrong, you're going to hurt yourself. You have to have the proper technique. That is why core stability is important, and mobility is important in everything that you do in life. But I would say deadlifts, and you can deadlift once again with a bar, with a dumbbell, with a medicine ball, like the 50-pound ball we did this morning.
Yeah, we sure did. Boy, howdy.
You can use Army sandbags, like I have at my facility. I just take some old Army bags and fill them up with sand.
Use those too.
You can use those too. So I just don't use bars. I use a lot of different implements.
Yeah.
And the thing about using a sandbag, just to touch on that a little bit, is that it's more unstable because you got sand more fluidly moving around in there, or you can pick up. I've even used beer kegs.
Oh, yeah.
Which,
well, you see that on the strongman competitions
right.
and stuff,
So
too. Yeah.
I used to have a beer keg at my facility, but I moved it. But you could pick up beer kegs with stuff sloshing around in it, so that gives you more core stability. I want to go back just for a second. I forgot to mention one of the pulling exercises, and that would be chin-ups or pull-ups.
Okay.
Okay, now, I know some people are probably thinking, man, I can't do a chin-up or a pull-up. We have to modify. We have to regress it back a little bit, so you can use some TRX suspension systems. You can even get a little bit improvise a little bit by putting your feet up on a table or a chair and doing it that way, or have somebody spot you. You can use bungee cords. There's different ways of modifying, but that would be one of my top ones too on the push-pull area.
My wife, Jane, is going to love that because she's really working hard right now to be able to do pull-ups. That's a goal of hers. So we'll see if she gets there.
Now, the pull-ups now, those are...
Oh, thank you.
Now, on the pull-ups, that's not ground-based. That's probably the only one that's not on my list, but it does require a degree of core stability. I keep talking about stability there.
You do?
Notice.
You do?
Now, I have trained people in past years who have done pull-ups and chin-ups, and they've told me the next day that their abs are sore.
Yeah.
Because it takes that much core stability to keep yourself steady as you're pulling yourself up and down.
Totally believe that.
Okay.
I can do a few, and every time I do them, I feel my abs engaged when I do it.
Right. And that's another thing. A more advanced version of pull-ups are pegboard.
Can't do that one yet, but someday.
Yes.
I'm getting there.
If you guys don't know what pegboard is, look up some old PE class videos from the 1950s and 60s. You see young men doing pegboard exercises out some school out in California. In fact, President Kennedy at the time really promoted physical fitness back in the 60s.
Yeah.
And he was promoting this particular high school out there. I don't recall what the name of the high school is, but they showed old video footage of these young men doing pegboards, climbing ropes, doing jumping jacks, doing mountain climbers and squat thrusts and burpees in class. That's the way PE class was in those days.
Yeah.
Not like today.
A little bit different. Didn't Kennedy start the Presidential Physical Fitness Awards?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yes, he did. He, I believe on there they have the push-up, the pull-up, some sort of run. I don't think it's a mile run. It might be a shuttle run or something like that.
I remember we did a shuttle run. Yeah. We did like a 600-yard run, 50-yard dash. Yeah, I never got the award.
And you have to do so many, I think so many sit-ups.
Sit-ups were in there too.
In 60 seconds or something like that. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, there were like 6 things that all specifically embarrassed me in front of my classmates. It was great.
Yeah.
So that was deadlift. Was
Number 5.
Oh, wow. Oh, well, let's see.
Number 5.
Okay, yeah, it's official.
Now, number 5, I don't really have a specific exercise. What I do is I combine all the above. So a lunge with a twist, squat with a press, deadlift with a high pull, like a high pull deadlift to an upright row. Mm-hmm. It's hard for me to demonstrate that in front of this microphone, but these are what I call multi-planar, multi-movement compound exercises. Now, you read about these quite a bit now in the HIIT training, the high intensity training.
Oh, right.
Which is pretty much circuit training. And what this is, you're really putting 2 or 3 exercises in one exercise. Mm-hmm. And what that does, the theory behind it is to burn more calories, to engage more muscles, to get the adrenaline pumping, which makes sense. It's good. Now, it depends what your goals are when you exercise, folks. If your goal is to lose body fat, you have to have a certain tempo, velocity, how fast you're moving with the load, a certain amount of rest, a certain amount of sets and reps, and how many days a week you're going to do it.
Yeah.
If your goal is to put on a lot of muscle, like bulk, if you're training for a specific athletic sport, you want to put on a lot of muscle, once again, you have to tweak the tempo, the days, the sets, the reps, the velocity. So there's things you have to tweak in there. So everybody's going to be a little bit different. And you have to find an exercise or exercises that you're going to get the most bang for your buck. everybody's a little bit different how you respond. Some people respond more to heavier weightlifting. Mm-hmm. Some people respond better to circuit training. Mm-hmm. Some people respond more to maybe body weight training. It all depends. Some people respond more to more core training, you might say. It all depends. Some people respond better to, okay, I'm going to work in some weights with some cardio, weights with cardio, kind of flip back and forth, go from one to the next, one station to the next. Let's say you do weights for 1 minute, cardio for 1 minute, weights for 1 minute, cardio for 1 minute. It all depends, and that's why people hire me, because I will help you determine what is best for you. Because just because you read something in a magazine or Men's Health or Women's Health or whatever the case may be, that such and such is doing a certain type of exercise, doesn't mean it's the right exercise for you.
Yeah, and to give a little bit more of an endorsement to you, as we were driving away, my wife and I, from class this morning, she's like, she goes, all of these exercises we do, I could probably find online, but I wouldn't know how to mix them up the right way.
Correct.
And I wouldn't have the accountability of Roberto standing there. I don't know if cheering me on is the right word.
But threatening,
yeah, whatever. But encouraging us to push ourselves harder, and that you can't get that on your own. So if somebody wants to work with you, what do they do?
Contact me. My number is 816-405-7703. Email is rwpsports@yahoo.com. You can also friend me on Facebook. You can also look up Innovative Sports Training. If you are a serious person who wants some serious results, I only want people who want serious results. Mm-hmm. Okay, if you're a BSer, I don't want you. Okay, bottom line.
Yet somehow I'm in the class.
Okay, yes. So if you're serious about your training, you're serious about making the next step in your program, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your guy.
I'll vouch for him on that. Roberto, thank you again, as always. Great podcast today. We got top 5 exercises here. And I'm excited about next week because I think we're going to talk about like the top 5 foods that people should eat for nutrition. So, Hey, thanks so much for tuning in to the Health Detective Podcast, and we will talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Health Detective Podcast with Roberto Parker. You can contact Roberto at 816-405-7703 or by email at rwpsports@yahoo.com with any comment or question you may have. Join us next time for the Health Detective Podcast with Roberto Parker. The Health Detective Podcast with Roberto Parker has been a KCTK production, produced by Roberto Parker, Chris Whiting, and Paul Lavoda. All rights reserved. For more information and content, email us at kctkradio@gmail.com.